You know what the biggest problem I had with Legoland in Orlando?
What's that?
Too many kids.
Yeah.
Too many kids.
Kids tend to ruin everything.
They kind of do.
Kids.
I wanted to just like flash the lights, blink them, get on the PA system, go boom. Attention. If you don't have money in your pocket and you're not actually buying it yourself, please get away from the Build-A-Figure. Move away. Because I wanted to make... Because for $10 you can build 3 figures. I thought, I'll make like some really cool ones.
Right.
Maybe some gifts for my friends.
Sure.
Too many children.
You know what they need is an Adult Swim time.
They do need an adults-only Lego bar.
Yeah. I had the same problem when I went to that Dora the Explorer convention in Atlanta last year.
Was it a lot of kids?
Just a bunch of kids, and it was miserable.
This is going to be episode 18 of the FoundryCast. Yeah. We're just plugging along here. Just sort of a reset, if this is your first time joining us. Yeah. We are a conglomerate of a couple different...
Conglomerate? Wow.
Is that the word?
Making it sound fancy.
Yeah.
We're not a couple of guys in a basement. We're a conglomerate.
Yes.
We're coming to you from the corporate offices of the Foundry.
That's right. Penthouse corporate offices.
Gleaming skyscraper.
Oh yeah, we're right over there in Pack Square, Asheville.
Sure. Yeah. No. Yeah. We're a couple of guys who love creation. We like painting minis, making terrain for D&D games, making D&D games. Costuming, playing games, board games. We're
building lightsabers.
I did that last year.
Just kind of all kinds of stuff. Geek culture. Sure. The website is TheFoundryCast.com, and our motto is Build, Craft, Create. Right. And anything involved in that is something that we love and aspire to either do or talk about.
Absolutely.
Both of us have YouTube channels. Both of us have Twitch streams. And I think one of my favorite things is always the podcast.
Yes.
Where we go over things going on behind the scenes at the website, some nerdy news, and some other important topics that we like to cover.
Go into some more detail. We've got a couple of cool things we're going to talk about tonight for sure. But I guess we could start right off the top with some news.
Yeah. So I was recently reading a little bit about Disney. They've announced a new Star Wars animated series. Do you remember when Star Wars came out? I think it was between episodes 2 and 3.
Yes. Oh, no. Okay, sorry.
When Star Wars, between episodes 2 and 3, did a limited run cartoon on Cartoon Network.
Clone Wars?
Clone Wars.
Yeah, the first or the second Clone Wars. Because there was a 2D animated and a 3D,
2D,
right?
The 2D animated.
The Guinea Tartakovsky, did Guinea do it?
I don't remember. Anyway, we should research that.
That was, anyway, yeah.
But it was brief 3 to 4 minute episodes.
Yeah,
very
short. Episodes, yes.
And they were various different things, following different Jedi or different people in the Empire. Great series. Yeah. They're going to do something like it coming here soon.
I hadn't even heard about
this. It's going to be called Star Wars Forces of Destiny. It's going to be Disney and Lucasfilm. It's still going to be 2 to 3 minutes. But the focus is on the heroines of the series.
Okay.
And I think it's going to debut sometime in July. So it's going to follow Jyn Erso, it's going to follow Leia, it's going to follow all of these strong women, even some that... Ahsoka,
Padme...
I don't know about Padme. I think it's going to be... it's going to be Star Wars Legends. Not Star Wars Legends. Star Wars... The new series.
Okay. The newer...
Rebels, sorry. Yeah, Star Wars. Yeah. The female characters who are awesome from Star Wars Rebels, and then the newest movies. So I'm fairly excited about it.
Sure.
The only thing that has me at a pause is I don't know if I like the animation style, because it's going to be...
Is it 3D again?
It's going to be 3D. Yeah. It's not going to be quite the same stylization. I don't know. It looks... From what I've seen the animatics released so far, I'm not very impressed. But I've been very faithful and trusting in what Disney has done with this so far.
Yeah, I haven't kept up with it. Like, I haven't watched Rebels at all. The designs and stuff just turned me off completely. I haven't kept up with it at all. I never watched the Clone Wars stuff either. I watched a little bit of the early stuff. But the newer 3D Clone Wars series, I didn't really see.
You know what?
I saw a couple episodes.
I went to see the movie in the theater for the Clone Wars 3D animated.
I forgot they even had that, yeah.
It was okay. It was sort of introduction to Ahsoka.
Yeah.
The show after that got very good. Got very, very good. Such to the point that I thought it was a series that could have continued even further. And it ended with a bit of a cliffhanger. With Ahsoka basically running away from the Jedi Order because...
We talked about off air some rumors that there might be some connections with that in the new movie.
I really hope so. Because she ended up being a very interesting character.
Yeah.
She's made a bigger impact in Star Wars Rebels. So that sort of time places her 30 years ago. I'm guessing maybe she didn't make it all the way to the newer movies.
Well, according to the original canon, no, because Luke and Yoda were the last Jedi, so...
Yeah, but then you use the word Jedi, and we...
That's true, but I feel like that's
we have some clues as to what might be happening in the new movie.
I think. But...
We could talk about movie trailers and such at a later time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that should be debuting in July. I'm excited to see what comes out of it.
Yeah. I'm glad... Anything that's going to bring more fans to the series, don't have any problem with.
Yeah, sweet.
Speaking of Star Wars, actually, another bit of news that I'm super excited about. Well, so this isn't brand new news, but they've been talking a little bit more about details for the, I can't even remember what it's called, Star Wars Land or whatever. It's going to be in Disney World in Orlando. They're going to do a whole Star Wars section of the theme park.
Have they not begun that already?
They have started, and it'd be stupid not to do more. But it's going to be like a big theme, different rides. There's going to be like, stormtroopers marching around patrolling, which I think would be fun. But the coolest thing, the crown jewel that's been announced, is that they're thinking about it. I don't think they're for sure going to do it. They're thinking about doing a hotel that's going to be like Star Wars starship themed.
That could be like to walk into a Star Destroyer hotel.
Yeah, or the Tantive 4, like all the white corridors like that. Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited about that.
You know what? They could use... honestly, very cheap building materials, just like they did to make the movies,
70s, yeah, exactly.
And it would look just as good. That would be pretty cool. I don't know if it would feel very homey.
Yeah, it'd be a little sterile, maybe.
But for a nerd like you or I,
that'd be fun.
That would be sweet.
We'll see. It would be great if you were staying in a hotel and, like, if you went out to the hallway, there's just, like, a droid just went by. That kind of stuff.
The droid room service?
Archie would bring you drinks to your door.
Yeah, what if your room attendants are the guys who are working the base on Endor with that big weird black half helmet thing?
Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool.
There's all kinds of fun stuff they could do with that. So I'm looking forward to that. I think the Star Wars Land opens fully 2019, I think they said.
Okay.
Honestly, there's going to be a Millennium Falcon ride that sounds like it's going to be really cool and some other stuff. So I'm looking forward to going down and seeing that.
If they put the same amount of love and attention into the Star Wars theme park as Universal did to Harry Potter, then I will go to Disney instead of Universal.
Oh, that's something I still got to go do.
Harry Potter?
I still haven't been to Harry Potter World.
I haven't been since the new update with Diagon Alley.
Yeah, they added Diagon Alley,
and they changed one of the roller coasters, I believe, as well. Took over some other assets, which is a smart thing to do, basically reskinning things. Yeah. I loved it. Just to be able to stand and look up and see the dragon and to see Hogwarts and to walk through some of the back passages of Hogwarts before you do the 3D ride, which is awesome. A little motion sickness, but a real fun time. Disney can just take my money now.
Sure.
I'll buy a fast pass tomorrow.
That's my only fear is that those rooms in the Starship Hotel are going to be booked for years.
They are.
But, we'll see.
So another bit of news, still kind of talking into movies.
Yeah.
This isn't very, very new, but they're moving forward on the Labyrinth sequel. It was addressed, or announced rather, in October of 2014.
Yeah.
That it was in the works, something was going to happen. They finally tapped a director and a writer. I haven't really heard of these guys before. The director directed the new Evil Dead movie. And the writer also did some more kind of adult-ish movies. Not adult movies, in quotation marks, but... So it seems as if it's still going to have a very dark lean. I haven't heard if it's still attached to Jim Henson Studios.
Yeah.
I hope it is. Because what they're able to do then, fast forward to now with the Muppets and puppetry.
Sure. It'd be awesome, yeah, for sure. But
it sounds like this is not a reboot.
Yeah.
Which is good. Thank God.
Right.
Kind of tired of reboots.
Yeah.
It is not likely.
Episodes.
It is not likely a sequel So it seems like it's more of a spin-off in the same realm.
World. Yeah, okay. Sure.
I think there could be some more stories in that land of dark fantasy.
Yeah, it's something that hasn't worked in a long time, and that was something growing up in the 80s. Most kids' films had that mood, like Gremlins and other movies that had that really dark edge to them. I don't know Hollywood today can do that feel correctly. That's my concern.
To have that lightness of fantasy and humor, but also to have the darkness. There are some movies that do one or the other very well.
But I don't know if it's very hard to blend those two.
Yeah, I would be willing to give it a chance because anyone who loves Labyrinth, I don't think they would try to cash in and make it for a Pizza Hut commercial.
That's not a killer property.
That's
not where the kids are just amped for that new Labyrinth movie.
No, they're not.
Yeah, you're not going to get the Taco Bell ads or anything with that.
And I've seen this, and I wish I had more information. I didn't research it, but just talking about it. There is a new board game for Labyrinth with full 3D pieces, like the characters, that are 28 millimeter size. Beautiful. I don't know if they come painted or not, but some of the pictures I'd seen, I want to get my hands on them.
Yeah, it'd be nice. It'd be great to have a David Bowie figure just to use in your games.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be so good.
And how cool would it be if you or I have children in the near future, or far future, and to show them this, and this is their Labyrinth movie, and go, oh, you want to see something scary? Well, let's go watch this other one.
Yeah.
So the last bit of news, not exactly one specific news story, but since we've had this just explosion of movie news, like Labyrinth, we've had a lot of trailers come out in the last 2 weeks. Yeah. Some of the most notable trailers, the new Star Wars The Last Jedi came out.
Looks good.
I have a dear cousin who will not watch any trailer or any teaser because he has a very analytical mind and he doesn't want anything to be spoiled. He doesn't want to even see one explosion on screen.
Well, if it's anything like the Rogue One trailer, none of the scenes of the trailer are going to
even make it to the movie anyhow, so don't sweat it.
Who cares?
Yeah, you could. Totally different movie happens in the Rogue One preview. But I was in love with the preview.
It looks great.
It looks great.
Yeah.
There's already Oscar nomination talk about Mark Hamill.
Yeah,
they're saying that his scenes are going to be...
The Academy would never do that.
Really?
Yeah, really.
I don't know.
When's the only one and only nerd movie that's ever won an Academy Award was Return of the King, and that was only just because
it swept.
But that was only because of the awards for the trilogy as a whole. I don't know. I don't think the Academy would ever do that, but I think it would be good. Mark Hamill is he's not a amazing actor, but he's a better actor than I think people would normally give him credit for.
Sure. He's one of the best character actors that there is.
Yeah. He's a good character actor.
I think just because of his trajectory based on Star Wars.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, the point he is in his career and his life now, it's like the perfect time for him to do this role and do it really well.
I've never seen Indiana Jones as anything other than Earth Han Solo.
Yeah.
For me. And that's just Harrison Ford, to me, will always be Han Solo. And I think that's what's happened to most of the cast. They can't be taken seriously in other roles, but that's fine. So they play character roles, and they can maybe morph into something else. I'm excited to see that movie. Yeah, I'm over the moon that it's going to be out this year.
I think it'll be good. Force Awakens was good. Rogue One was not all that good. Forgive me for saying. So I'm on the fence. I don't think it's going to be bad. I know it's not going to be bad. Yeah, Disney's not going to allow something to be bad.
And I can understand how some people didn't like Rogue One, but I appreciate that you still concede some of the ways that it was good.
I'm not saying it was terrible, but it wasn't. It was fine for what it was. I'm not going to get upset about that.
It's like saying if The Last Jedi is going to be better than Rogue One. I don't know if that's a fair thing to say, but we're in for a great movie.
Yeah, I should hope it is. I don't know. We'll see.
Did you see the Thor preview?
The Thor preview, I am pretty much the most excited about a movie I've been in a long time, which is really weird. Because if you'd have told me a couple weeks ago you're going to be stoked for the new Thor movie, I'd be like, yeah, okay, Thor, wow, yeah, those movies are...
the first movie was alright.
They're not bad.
They're trying to establish a mythos.
Weird and dull. I mean, they're...
They're kind of dull.
They're like the C list of the Marvel movies.
Oh, I would say B minus.
They're not top drawer.
It's harmless. I never felt offended watching a Thor movie.
They're what you watch after you watch the good ones, and it's 2 a.m. and you're a little bit drunk. You're gonna let's watch a Thor movie too.
Well, and you
fall asleep halfway through. You don't really miss anything. That being said, this new trailer, I don't know why, but I think it's the style. They've got the music in there. They're obviously kind of pulling lessons from Guardians of the Galaxy.
A little bit.
The logo looks like those sticker books in the 80s, the unicorn in space stuff. And
again,
I saw that
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Exactly, a little bit like retro, and that fits so well for Thor, where you're like, all right. It's sort of like Captain America, those movies where when they go back to that source material, they're like, let's be patriotic 50s comic stuff. Yeah. It works really well.
It does.
With Thor, going back to the 80s and being like, let's be big and colorful and kind of bizarre, like outer space stuff.
Well, and that's the same issues that they had with Doctor Strange. Mm-hmm. You know, how do you take this color? And magic is a huge problem in these movies that are more about mutation without the word mutation.
They're quote unquote science-based.
Science-based and science fiction. Yeah. To add magical elements, they're trying to say, well, it's Tesseract, well, it's space, well, it's aliens. And Thor's always had that problem because it's always been magic and aliens, but
just
not.
A little bit,
so this is a great direction, and they're taking some amazing source material that when I read what they were going to do, to a degree, I thought this is going to flop so hard, but I can see why people would be excited.
It's going to be fun.
I purposefully got internet while I was well out of town just to watch that preview, and I geeked about it for a week. So I'm so excited for that movie.
For that one, for sure.
There's a new preview for the Full Metal Alchemist live action movie.
I haven't seen. I heard about it, but I haven't seen the.
It's still sort of it's Japanese filmed, penned, all that.
Okay.
Looks good for what it is. Problem with anime, there's a huge story that they got to squeeze into smaller bites, and if you could call a 2-hour movie a smaller bite. Yeah. But they showed what each character looks like, full body, face. What the CG looks like. I think it's going to be a fun movie.
Well, we talked about this last week when you were talking about Ghost in the Shell, and it's really hard to translate anime to a single film, especially live action, because you can't.
Well, and when you try to do it frame for frame, the translation doesn't look right.
It's not right, because those characters don't look the same animated versus live action, and how the heck are you going to tell a story that's multiple seasons? So, I'd appreciate it if Hollywood just stopped trying to do this. Just because Full Metal Alchemist is a pretty good anime. It stands on its own. Let's just let it stand on its own. Same with Ghost in the Shell, or God forbid if they do a Cowboy Bebop movie. Just let those stand on its own.
If I'm not mistaken, I think I may have read that there's already a script floating out there for Cowboy Bebop. But you know what? If they treat Cowboy Bebop with the same love that they did the Firefly franchise, kind of make it the rogues in space.
You know what? That's what I'll say. Is all of these things would work better as a Netflix original series rather than a film. I wish that they would do that.
Sure.
If you want to make a live action and reboot it, let's do it. Let's do it season,
slowly,
episode by episode. Let's explore the stories.
Or put it on Hulu. Put it somewhere where they can say, "We're spending this many $1 million. We'll give you time to build the whole season." And then if it flops, we just don't do another season. Yeah.
And then if it does well, hey, maybe next season you can do a theatrical release or something.
Maybe.
I'd rather do it that way, but whatever. And so one other, it sort of fits in the news category, so I thought I'd toss it in here. So the new season of Mystery Science Theater 3000 has been released.
I saw that pop up on my Netflix. I've been reading about it. It's here.
I'm excited. I mean, they did a Kickstarter a while back. So I've seen the first episode. I haven't gotten a chance to watch any more. I'm definitely going to watch some more episodes of it because I want to give it a fair chance. I'm as close to being a hyper fan of that series as you can be without being. I wasn't, and it shames me to this day, I wasn't part of the MST3K fan club as a kid. I wish I had been, but I wasn't.
It was just this really, pardon me, it was this weird element. That when I saw it, I remember I was at my dad's house, and it was on TV, and I couldn't understand because I was never able to watch those late night monster movie kind of where the guy dressed as a vampire introduced the movie. Like, that was foreign to me until I got in my late teens, early adulthood, that I kind of caught up in very quickly. And this had that kind of a weird feeling. I didn't know, do I take it seriously? Is it funny?
Yeah.
Am I supposed to watch the movie? But right away I got, this is funny, man.
I kind of like, I used to love watching Godzilla movies as a kid.
Yeah,
I used to watch like Joe Bob Briggs. He would do crappy movies at night on TNT, I think it was. So like it worked pretty well for me, but like MST3K is one of those things, one of those like watershed things in my life to where I can look back and understand how in multiple ways that series shaped me as a person.
Oh yeah.
Definitely, obviously my sense of humor, but also like how I treat things, how I understand things, being able to make fun of things while still loving it, being able to be critical of things while still loving them.
Of course,
Which I know some people have a problem with, we were talking a minute ago about Rogue One. I don't like Rogue One. I can criticize it all day long. And people can be like, well, you're not a Star Wars fan if you don't like it. Well, no, I'm a big Star Wars fan. I'm able to criticize things.
Yeah, that's a weird argument to make.
Yeah,
you've heard that? You actually
not directly to me, but I've seen folks online say that kind of thing before for sure. So, it's one of those series that like absolutely like some of my best memories, and I guess this is kind of sad just thinking back to my childhood, but some of my best memories are Sunday afternoons watching that show.
Oh yeah, and
falling asleep listening to the outro music. I loved it. So, I love the original series. Like I said, I'm a huge, huge fan. So, that being said, going into the new series, I'm trying my best to give it a chance. It's, it's 15 years removed from the previous episodes.
Were there any episodes made after the movie was released?
Yes.
Were there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, all the sci-fi stuff was made after the movie.
Okay.
So they did the original Comedy Central episodes, 7 seasons. Then they got canceled. They were canceled. They did the film, and then they got renewed by Sci-Fi for another, 6 seasons.
Was it really that many?
Yeah, they did a bunch of seasons in Sci-Fi.
That's how far off I was.
So, but yeah, so I've watched all of that stuff. I watched more of the Comedy Central stuff than I did the Sci-Fi stuff. I've seen all the episodes since then, but like live, day of kind of stuff. So going into this one, I have been excited, but also skeptical. Part of the problem, if looking at the credits, there's basically nobody involved that was in the original show. Joel Hodgson is credited as like producer, writer. I honestly don't know how much involvement he had. Paul Chaplin was an original writer on the show, and he's on the new staff, and that's pretty much it. So I think that's part of the problem is you don't, and that's my biggest complaint about the new show is it doesn't. It feels like a really well done fan film.
And that's what I thought it might be, to a degree.
It's clear that they love the original. Right. And it's clear that they want to make more, but it's also clear that they don't quite get it.
They're not there yet.
They're not those people, and they don't quite understand. So, probably my biggest complaint about the series is that and this is a funny complaint to have, it's too well made. It's too well produced. The effects are too nice. The camera is too nice. The sets are too nice.
There's something about the old one where it was campy.
Especially early seasons. Yeah. It is stuff that you and I would make.
Love that.
Stuff out of egg cartons painted. Yes. It's craft. And it works because it was done in this really fun, earnest way that you just love it to death. And the new series is so nicely made, but they're trying to ape that cheap style, and it just doesn't work.
Well, here's the thing, though. How much would it cost for you or I to go make not Cambot, what was
Gypsy?
Gypsy. Yeah. How much would that cost us?
Probably $100, $150 for a piece. If
you
got the correct pieces.
But they could animate one for $30. That would look glossier. It's actually cheaper to do all these high-tech effects and make it look nicer than it would be.
Yeah,
at the time, it's cheaper to go and buy a big old garbage can and just cut the edge out.
Snow shovels is what Gypsy was. It was 2 pieces of snow shovels.
That's right.
Yeah, the bots, they've made some changes to their design, which I don't like, but I'm not going to complain about because whatever, they change all the time. The voices are weird. One of my problems is in the theater. the main host and the guys who do the Tom Servo and Crow's voices, they're all pretty funny guys. They do fine jobs with the voices, but they all sound really similar. So it's really hard when you're watching to know, and that's probably
which personality is.
Yeah, exactly.
Tom Servo was always the funniest.
He's like the sarcastic, acerbic kind of, and then Crow's kind of the weird, wacky, kind of dumb, but all, So it's, and again, watching more episodes will probably help, understanding everybody.
I just appreciate that it's been done, even with the fan love and embracing that it was. There's a lot of fan films that I've seen that were done better than what Hollywood producers and directors were able to come up with, because they did it with something else, other things that they had to keep in mind. This sounds like because it was crowdfunded by people who adored the series, and it sounds like there are a couple people still attached who were involved in the original product.
Yes.
It's the Mr. Science Theater 3000 for the new generation, and
and it's funny, like thinking back to basically the original series. The original series was what people on YouTube were.
Yeah,
that's what it was. It was cheap people doing things cheaply and throwing it out there.
Yeah,
and this new series is the Hollywoodized version of that.
I'm willing to give it a chance. It's just about 3 things behind on my queue.
Yeah.
I've got to catch up with Better Call Saul. And then a couple other things. I'll be on it.
I'm going to give it a couple more episodes, and maybe in a future episode of our podcast, I might do a full, in-depth, more review of it.
Maybe I'll catch up to you by then.
It's not bad. It's not bad.
Anything with Felicia Day and Patton Oswalt.
They're the best part.
I'm in.
Felicia Day is chewing up the scenery, which is amazing.
She does that.
And Patton Oswalt's really funny.
One of the brightest comedians of our age.
Then they're probably the best part of the show so far.
All right, in this week's Table Topics.
Yeah, Table Topic.
Wanted to cover something that I've been really thinking about in my head for a few... That's where I usually think about things, is in my head.
Usually, that's the case. I mean, sometimes in your... Never mind. Please continue.
In my gut.
Sure, yes, gut.
Chewing it over in my gut.
Yeah, okay.
Something that's been on my mind, and interestingly enough, one of the guys that I'm subscribed to that I read his articles, his name is Neil Leatherland, or Leatherland. He's the author... of the Improved Initiative blog. I'm sure you've read. I think I've sent you some of his articles before.
Yes, I've seen a little bit of his stuff.
Yeah, he's an author out of Northwest Indiana, I think. Okay. And I've been kind of reading his stuff for a long time, several years, anyways. I think every now and then he has this little nugget that I take with me into gameplay and stuff. But he was covering in a recent blog that was called "Broken Stairs Are Something We Need to Address in the Gaming Community."
Yeah, I read this. It was really good, actually.
It's a good article. Yeah. He referenced a couple other articles. And I had already been thinking about this concept, and I think I'd heard the terminology broken stair before, but I couldn't quite place where it was that I first learned about it. And succinctly, for someone who's listening who may not have heard of it before, a broken stair is just like if you're walking up a staircase and someone's walking towards you and you know that the bottom step is broken and you say, look out, the step ahead of you is broken. Yeah. You could have possibly gone ahead and fixed it yourself, maybe. Instead, you think you're doing the right thing by warning someone, and to a degree you are. But do you have the responsibility of doing something about it? Right. And when it comes to the gaming community, I think it tends... this is an issue that we've experienced too much in our gameplay. But we also haven't been deeply mired in society play.
Yeah.
Group play.
Right. Yeah.
Convention play.
We've always been really lucky with our, we played with friends, and we've known who we are, or who we're playing with. But even that, we've always been really lucky where we have good groups of friends who have, I think, overall really good gaming habits. But yeah.
And again, we've been rather fortunate. We've had some similar instances that have been, and again, this might be part of the problem. You and I might consider to be harmless,
right?
But to somebody else, it's not, or we have to be aware of it. And so the broken stair issue when it comes to the gaming community is that there are players who have issues, typically that they might be harassing to a degree, They might be abusive in a way.
Yeah.
And that, let's say we have and this tends to happen men to women, but not necessarily so. Mm-hmm. And I imagine that you and I invite a lady into the group that we're playing, and we say, look out, this player over here, he's a bit of
just FYI, Bob over there, he likes to joke around a little bit.
His characters are a bit of Lothario, so he's probably going to hit on you.
Yeah, he likes to play bards that like to compliment ladies' parts, and so he might say a few things. And
he's harmless.
He's harmless.
Don't worry about it. He's fine. Where maybe we recognize that he goes too far, and instead of us doing something about it, we're just warning somebody else, and maybe because of that, we're allowing it to be. And I think about a specific instance in a game. I think you had bowed out of it at the time. Mm-hmm. I don't, or this was about the time that you had just stepped out of the game, just for timing availability.
Work and school have made me leave a lot
and
of
they
games.
Always do. That's the worst thing. It's not lack of desire. It's lack of time.
Yeah, I will say I've never left a game because I didn't want to play with the people I was playing with or anything like that. But
being a grown-up is hard.
It is kind of not great.
But the one of the characters became very verbally abusive to another character.
Yeah.
And the concept was, well, the abusive character was very frustrated, but in reality, we all knew, yes, the character's frustrated, but the player was also frustrated at some of the game master's choices, and instead of talking it through like an adult, or coming to some understanding with the group either in or out of game, it was, let me blow up at the first person who's near me, who's the most unlikely to retort.
Right.
And fortunately enough, the situation devolved where the player wasn't going to come back anyways, because it was going to be an out-of-game conversation, game master, all the players, all of our cards out on the table, because we were ready to have that conversation, because it went too far, too quickly to be anything other than an accidental in-game. My characters...
It wasn't a character moment, it was...
it was one character abusing another verbally, which was undeserved.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, like, and I'm sure we'll get to this later, where you can extend what this topic we're talking about to other parts of our fandom, other hobbies that we have. Sure. But specifically with tabletop role-playing, there's the excuse, I guess you'll call it, of you're getting lost in a character. You're playing a role, and a lot of times we choose to play roles that are very unlike ourselves. And so, I'm playing an abusive jerk as a character. And that can be fun. Now, honestly, if you have the right group, you can play kind of a person who pushes things a little bit too far. And if everybody's on board with that, it can be a fun story to tell. But at the same time, it's very easy to fall into the trap of, well, I'm an actor playing a role, and that allows me to insult you.
The term I think of is alibi.
Yeah.
And any time you need to present an alibi, in this case, you're wrong.
Yeah, if you ever need to say, oh, well, don't worry, it's just my character, you've reached...
If
it's not already clear that you're just playing a character, everybody should already understand. If you say something... So, if you reach a point where people are saying, that was too far, and you have to justify it as your character, then you push too far. I think that's a good
I was watching a YouTube video with online group playing together, and one of the characters, to save his friends, had to cast a fireball into an area where there were innocents, and innocents died. And a child died in the fireball blast. Now, the group was semi-horrified, and the guy was saying, what else can I do? But then the next game, he took time to address it, and to feel bad about it, and to talk to them and say... You know, I made this terrible mistake, but I need you to know it's because I couldn't let any of you die. You're all I have. And it was a moment that the rest of the cast knew well enough that this moment of horror, like bad judgment, was not a person playing chaotic evil. I'm killing that person because it's what my character would do.
Yeah.
They allowed time. Like, okay, that was tragic and terrible. How could you do that? But instead of addressing it, they trusted him and they knew that situation. He didn't have to have an alibi.
Right.
He didn't really have to, out of character, say, what else was I supposed to do? It's what my character would do.
Don't worry, this is my character.
Yeah, don't worry. And using the excuse of your character, oh, they're chaotic evil. They'd do what they want. They'd kill things randomly.
Yeah.
That's still not okay.
Yeah, I think that's... I feel like that's a topic we talked about a long time ago in a previous episode about introducing, especially chaotic evil, seems like the culprit character, but
True.
Certain people who play certain alignments or certain character types so that they can get away with doing this kind of stuff. And that's part of it, people will push the boundaries within the game, and if you're doing really horrible things to NPCs that make people uncomfortable, that's one thing. But that should be addressed and stopped. But what's really spooky to me is the idea that you're doing things to other players.
Yes.
To other PCs, but more importantly to other players to make them feel uncomfortable.
I feel like there are certain games, one that we dabbled in briefly, one that we didn't get into that's connected. Any game that has influence, anything that has...
Anything in World of Darkness?
Seduction, anything that has like control over someone's mind.
Vampire specifically, you have the ability to dominate people, and I am going to make you do things with my mind, and you fail your role, you have to do what I say.
Now let's also, we probably should have thrown this warning out at the beginning.
Yeah.
Some of this subject matter is going to be very sensitive, and we appreciate that. Maybe we should have put this at the beginning after all.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, going forward, if, we might use specific verbiage, we'll try not... Yeah, we're not going to say anything bad, but...
Absolutely.
Bad words, I should say. But yeah, if we say anything, we apologize if it offends anybody. We're certainly not...
Yeah, certainly not our intention, but we do recognize that this is an important conversation.
Yeah.
And there is some sensitive... And try to be delicate with it.
We'll do our best. I think we always do a good job of trying to be delicate.
When it comes to sexuality, there are people who do want to play dominant and submissive,
and that happens a lot in vampire. A lot of vampire games are LARPed.
Yeah, and
so the difference between pen and paper and real world, that line is really blurred,
very blurred,
and
the personality of the player when it's a LARP, when it's a live action role play. You get into character in a different way, I feel.
Yeah.
And when it's something where you're dominating someone else, you could confuse what the character does with what you do. Yeah. And that's where it gets even more scary for some people, where I'm dominating you to be my submissive.
Right.
And it can be an abuse of power in a way that is still not okay. It's not accepted.
From a really low level thing, I think a lot of gamers out there have played in a game where the GM abused their power. Yeah, this is a common thing in younger groups where the GM, I'm all powerful and I kill, Yeah,
GM fiat.
Yeah, GM fiat. Rocks fall everybody does, but sure. But we're taking that to a different level of really bad functional societal stuff here, where and. As an aside, I will say, if we're talking specifically vampire, if you're basing a role-playing game off vampires, which are, and forgive the term, but they're basically a analogy for rape, that's historically what they are in literature.
Yes.
And you're basing a game around that, you're starting to get into really scary territory already.
Again, no offense intended, and that's a very difficult word, but
it's a bad word.
That is also something
what vampires are. They sneak into ladies' bedrooms at night and take from them by force things
in certain forms of that literature. Absolutely.
And so
well, and it's not just limited to vampires.
It's not. Absolutely.
I'm
not trying to pick on a specific game.
I am a sexy bard, and I enchant the barmaid, and I take her to my room and have my way with her. And I like the idea that your bard or whatever character you have could be that kind of smooth, ladies' man type character. But when you're forcing another player to role play that out when they don't want to. Right. When you're forcing the game master to play your sexual companion.
Yeah.
You're going down a different road here.
And certain groups and certain players like to play that sort of game, and that's fine if everybody's agreeing to it. I think what we're talking about is on a regular group where you have that one, I'll call it a squeaky wheel instead of a broken step. You have that one squeaky wheel player who, they're trying their best to fit into a normal game, but they let this side of them kind of creep in once in a while.
And the thing about a game, you should feel safe.
Absolutely.
We've got our group here, and this is a place where, and if you take a psychological perspective, sometimes you can watch players go through something in their real life through their character, and that's an important part of role play. You're playing a role as an actor. Yeah. You're playing a shade of yourself in some way.
Most of us aren't professional actors, so it helps to have connections to your real life.
Something to go off of, something to connect it to. Yeah. And so it should be a safe space where someone can deal with it or not deal with it. Yeah. And if part of it is I want to explore my ability to be strong and confident and sexuality is a part of that, that's really cool. Even I want to express myself in the form of another gender. Yeah. It's great that we have an opportunity to do that in something as simple as a game and LARPing as well. Yeah. It should be a safe space. But when you start to push your agenda over somebody else, that becomes a problem. And what often happens is not only are they the broken stair that we warn people about, they almost become insulated. Yeah. Like, you don't mind it, I don't mind it, because it doesn't affect us.
It's sort of like the small town mentality, where you have this tiny little town, and you've got the one guy in town that does stuff he shouldn't be doing, and everybody's well, that old Zeke, he's just, boys will be boys, he just does what he does.
And that is the worst attitude.
Yeah, it's just that, tight group culture that's just reinforced, and somebody who, again, for lack of a better word, an abuser, somebody who does this type of behavior, when they get reinforced in that passive way, that just spurs them to do more.
Get reinforced or allowed to do it.
And be stronger in their belief that it's okay that they do this. And the longer you let that go, and the stronger they feel that it's okay, the harder it is to address when they cross that boundary, when the group says, no, that's too far. We need to have a discussion with Zeke. And then at this point, you've let it go on so long that, Zeke gets upset because you didn't have a problem with it last week. You didn't have a problem with it last game. You didn't have a problem with it when your character was doing blah, blah, blah. Well, so now it's, everybody, and then it just becomes a big mess.
Yeah, our courtesy, if you will. Becomes enabling.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's, you and I both walked into new games with players we haven't played with before, with GMs we haven't played with before, and there you have to give a lot of courtesy, because it's going back to what you're talking about with the that online game you're talking about, where you have to give other players a benefit of the doubt to a certain extent. You have to give other players room to play their character and play the game, and not jump to a conclusion. Oh, you're trying to be abusive. Oh, you're trying to. But when you do that, especially if you're not familiar with it, if you're being too courteous, if you're giving too much leeway because you're trying to be nice and fit in and just make everything run smooth, you start enabling things that you shouldn't be enabling.
Well, I think there are two different focuses on that. One is the game's just not a good fit. The group is just not a good fit. And you should go in with an open mind, give it a try, and if the group isn't a good fit for you, get out of it. Sure. You can't fix the whole group.
Yeah, if I walked into a vampire LARP that was really focused on sexuality and stuff, but you know what, I'm gonna go home and play video games. That's not my thing. Yeah. I'm not judging, I don't have any problem with it, but it's not my thing.
And you shouldn't be afraid to just say, this isn't going to work. Sure, or if you're a game master and you bring someone into your party and it's just not working, you have the right to say,
I don't think this is a good fit.
This isn't a good fit. You shouldn't be afraid to do that.
It's no judgment on anybody, it's just everybody has different preferences.
There's a fit. There's a good fit, and to benefit the group and the whole story. Yeah. To move on, we have to be strong and resolute that that's an option.
Yeah.
The bigger issue is when this gets into the possibility of abuse, and it's systematic, and it's still a problem in business, much less.
Oh yeah,
and it's scary that it's still a problem.
Tabletop gaming problem only, for sure. Yeah,
but it's something in tabletop gaming where we allow ourselves to be open and to do something different than putting on the mask of the business you or the work you.
Yeah, we get to play around with having different personalities.
And this opens up sometimes the worst in people, because I think about the people who were abused, who go on to abuse others. Mm-hmm. And this is a very delicate thing to say, but I feel like a lot of us in nerd and geek culture may at some point have been treated badly.
Absolutely.
For who and what we are.
We talked about this on previous podcasts, that I went through all kinds of unpleasant experiences growing up, because I was not, I was a nerd. I was not, a quote unquote normal. I wasn't a jock. I wasn't on sports teams. So.
But do you find, or have you also seen that now when these people who might have been taken advantage of, victimized in some way, when they get the power to be the GM.
Yeah. I think it's really common.
That they take it too far.
I can tell you that in high school, if I had been placed as a GM in a game, I would have been a horrible GM. I had intense, really bad anger issues.
Yeah.
As I finished high school and went into college, because of these things I was trying to process and deal with. I was angry at the world. I was angry at everybody. I wanted to show how strong I was and dominate other people, because I had been, again, for lack of a better word, been dominated by other people my whole life. So, I think that's a really common problem.
I think that it's sort of a, if we were hazed, it's okay to haze somebody
Exactly.
else.
It's that same sort of mentality. We went through it, so it's okay.
Yeah. But it may manifest in several different ways, because real life is inevitably going to seep in to geek culture. So stereotypes, masculinity, or this overbearing false sense of masculinity, this perspective of where femininity should fit, and that their sexuality should be repressed, and if it isn't, then they're over-sexualized, and if at any point, I can't think of a time, with the exception of one player in a recent game who you've played with before, where they were actually confident in their sexuality, and they played with it the way they wanted to, but we didn't push it. The group was like, okay, we'll let them do it. Instead of going, hey, use your bosom to try to get your way in the door. But they said, hey, this pirate over here is stupid. If I wear my low-cut outfit and I go talk to him, he's going to want to listen. And it was part of influence. And she led him down an alleyway. And we were able to ambush him, take him out, basically get his keys to the boat. And it was a great choice on her part.
Yeah.
And at no point was it seen as bawdy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, as long as another player, what I think we're looking at here is, say, another player leans over and goes, hey, you should pull your shirt down a little bit since you're playing it.
Exactly.
No.
Yeah.
No.
That is part of a very thin line, but I think we have to be really aware that the way real life issues seep into games, we're replicating stuff that exists in the world that we should not, we shouldn't be doing anyways, but it's the same sensibilities that don't exist in this world. The sexual limitations of this world.
I think I've seen that excuse used a lot, especially with D&D Pathfinder, where you say, well, in the medieval times, it was okay to do this.
This isn't the medieval times.
It doesn't matter if we're playing in a fantasy setting and you think that it fits in a fantasy setting, it's still not okay. This is space, and this is how the aliens' culture is just the way where they... No, it's not. Like, we have the control, we are the authors of this world, regardless of the setting. We are running this game. We have the ability to say yes or no about anything in the game. And so you can't fall back on an excuse like, oh, well, it was okay in the Middle Ages for da-da-da-da-da. No, well, it's not okay now, and it's not going to be okay in this game. And you can't use that as an excuse. And just thinking before the thought leaves my brain, the other aspect of this that I think is really strong is that for a lot of people, and I think it's becoming less and less a problem now as gaming is more and more and more accepted and widespread. Mm-hmm. Pathfinder Society is out there now. You can find a game if you want it.
Exactly.
When I was growing up, you couldn't. I think that's part of it too, where if I've got a group of 4 people that like playing games with me.
Yeah.
I cannot do anything to jeopardize that group.
Or you're out.
Even if Zeke over there is being a real creepo.
Hitting on your girlfriend every time.
If I tell Zeke to leave, our group's going to break up and I don't get to play D&D anymore.
Right.
And I love D&D more than I love D&D enough to put up with Zeke's crap.
Well, that's you putting up with Zeke's crap. That's not, Jessica over here.
Exactly.
Putting up with Zeke's
I'm putting
crap.
up with it, so now everybody else has to put up with it too. I
Well,
think that's an aspect of it that, like I said, I think is becoming less of a problem, but for some people it still is. If you only have a certain type of, a certain number of people can play a game with you,
I think you have to have
you're pushed to keep those people.
The wherewithal to just say it isn't worth it because it's not right. Mm-hmm. And this is one of those, you've got to have the value and make the judgment and say, this is not going to work for me. Well, there's a couple ways you can deal with it, but I think it's important that, in a strong, I don't know if this is the right term, but sort of a feminist slant. We don't need to protect women.
Right.
But we as players, as game masters, need to pay attention to that, any victimization to
we need
anybody.
to protect all players,
that's
part of your job as the GM. Is you're there to protect all the players in the game. You're there to protect the game. And that, again, is part of that. You can fall into that trap of, well, I'm protecting the game. I have to hold it together. I have to keep this. I have to get rid of this drama. I can't let this happen. So we're just going to ignore it. What you have to do is you have to be an adult. You have to pull Zeke aside. And you have to say, listen, what you did today, that's not okay. If this is going to be an issue, then I'm going to ask you to leave my game. And I don't want you to leave my game. I want you to stay and play. But if you do, understand these are the rules. This is so. It's a conversation that maybe some groups don't need to have. I hope that there are groups out there that you know each other well enough. You don't have to have this conversation. It's just going to be naturally understood between everybody. But I think most groups, I would say, even if you feel like all of your friends get each other and you're comfortable with each other, I think it's still a good conversation to have at some point. Is sit down and say, hey, I just wanted to bring this topic up. Does anybody have anything they want to say? Let's talk it out. Let's make sure that everybody's comfortable going forward. And
I've been very fortunate in my group, and getting very specific. In a recent game, one of the players, she brought in to the story, the backstory, that this dark necromancer was wanting to maybe have her have a baby.
Yeah, it was. That's a situation that could be really awkward.
It could be really awkward, but it was not a story element that I would dare impose. Mm-hmm. Because it is just, because it involves rape. Yeah. Even magical rape. And that is not a thing that should be...
going back to justifying it because of the setting. No, it's still not an acceptable thing.
And not the same, but maybe equivalent in some ways. Slavery could be a very sensitive topic that you don't just add into it.
And honestly, we're ignoring some of the other things that are commonly accepted in RPGs. Murder.
Yeah. Murdering innocent
people is not okay. And we kind of forget about that for other ills that we've already talked about. But, we do a lot of bad things in RPGs that we normalize and we don't talk about enough.
But then it tends to be, it was in battle, it was an honorable fight, this was a monster. Justifications are there, and there are certain things that you have to be aware that you can't just justify them away because it may or not be acceptable to the party at large, and you don't know. It's sort of like harassment, and it's one of those things that I remember as becoming an adult. I didn't get it at first, but just because it's not offensive to you doesn't mean it's not offensive to somebody else, and that's still considered harassing.
Having gone through sexual harassment training and multiple jobs, this is a common thread about we're just joking around a little bit. Oh, it's just the guys joking. And then, there's a lot of societal pressure or group pressure in that group to say, oh, it's just joking, it's okay, just let it go. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what we're dealing with here. And, yeah, I think it just comes down to, the group and the GM especially, but everybody in the group has a responsibility to stay vigilant, stay on top of it, call it out when you see it, lay ground rules, talk about it to begin with.
There's that. If you're a player, be aware. Yeah. Don't assume that it's okay or not okay. Yeah. Be open to having that conversation. Mm-hmm. It's entirely possible the problem is you. And it's very difficult for you to go, okay, it's my issue, because you will probably say, it's just what my character would have done. Yeah. It's just the circumstance that we were in. Yeah. Be open to the conversation, because it might be your fault. Yeah. And deal with from there. If you're a game master, you have the responsibility, in my opinion, to regulate the group.
I think overall, yes.
It is.
The GM does, but
it is their story. I would argue
that all the players have that responsibility.
They do. But when you're the game master and you allow it to happen, I think that toxifies the group where, well, the game master doesn't care. What am I going to do? It's his game.
The rest letting it go. But at the same time, again, I think every player has a responsibility that if you have a problem, you need to speak up.
And we can't be afraid that jettisoning that person is not an option. It is an option. Yeah. It is every time.
It doesn't. It's better to say this game is not a fit for you on the first or second session, and avoid, somebody really getting something bad happening versus 10 or 15 sessions in and somebody's miserable and.
Right, but I don't think you should be afraid to not address it directly. Yeah. Do it sensitively, but address it directly. Sure. I'm not comfortable as the game master playing out what to me feels like a sexual role-playing game. Yeah. And what's funny is there are some incredibly dark, dirty compendiums to
we'll not get into the
sexual magic, which is unbelievable. But hey, maybe
each their own. If
that's your game,
there's
that's
groups
your
out
game.
there that want to play that, and
sure,
but we're getting into some more adult topics. I think that we want to.
No, not intentionally. The final thing that I feel as if this is probably less of a problem in basements, in dining rooms, in living rooms, because those tend to be smaller knit groups of people who already kind of know each other. Yeah. That may not be the case, and you should still be vigilant.
Yeah, you should be aware. Yeah, absolutely.
But it's also a bigger thing, I think, maybe more in that live action role playing group where a lot of people are coming in from different areas. They all often play together.
Societal play, con play.
Yeah, and society play and con play. Yeah. And I think that people get hidden and insulated within those groups, like, oh, this is Zeke, he's harmless, whatever. Sure. And then everybody sort of enables that. And then when someone new comes to the table, they could be affected very quickly. Yeah. And to say that both Pathfinder Society and the Adventurers League for D&D have very strict rules, but they have to be enforced, and they have to be brought to the attention of the officers who allow the league play. And so if that happens to you or to a friend of yours, don't be afraid to say something, because it can always be a conversation that ends in a very good way.
Exactly. It's better to speak up and have everybody say, I'm sorry, I didn't realize this, let's talk about it, okay, now we all feel better.
That's the best case scenario.
I'd rather have that happen.
It's more likely the person says,
we'll get pissed and walk away.
And that is the best thing.
Yeah, that's fine too.
They need to be gone if they need to be gone.
I'll add two things really quick. First of all, just thinking about connections to other parts of other hobbies. This is also an issue in conventions and cosplay, where you have folks wearing less clothes than probably is normal.
Sure.
And showing off parts of their body, and you have people, creepos, taking pictures, or, hey, can I take a picture with you? And suddenly their arms around you, and they're touching places they should, it's a common problem. It needs to be addressed. These are the kinds of things that have to be called out immediately when it happens. Not acceptable ever, ever, ever. Just because somebody's dressed less than normal doesn't give you the right to say or touch. The other thing is, let me just say really quick, anybody out there whose name's Zeke,
We're so sorry.
I apologize. That's just a name I pulled out. Zeke the Plumber. I'm sorry.
Zeke's a P1. He's been with us since episode 1.
Okay, he's our very first backer.
He knows. I think we're just going to have to use Zeke as our catch-all, because the likelihood of a Zeke...
I will say I've never met anyone named Zeke before. Doesn't mean they're not out there, because I know they are, but I never have.
Zeke the Plumber.
Well, Zeke the Plumber.
But beyond Salute Your Shorts.
Beyond Salute Your Shorts. Beyond early 90s Nickelodeon. Anyway, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And one last little wrap up there. It's entirely possible that you, as a person who is affected, might be considered emotional and emotionally reactive.
Sure, yeah.
And that is victimizing the victim.
Yeah, blaming the victim. Yeah.
Blaming
you're
the victim.
Just too emotional. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
It's the same thing as saying, well, if you go to that party, you deserve what you
exactly.
get. And that is so unfair.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we need to protect these people because they're sensitive little flowers. Yeah. No. They deserve to have the same right and respect that any of us do.
I don't think there's any such thing as being overly sensitive.
No, not in this case.
If you're too if I'm like, oh, you're too sensitive, no, you're not. Mm-hmm. You might be more sensitive to me to these things, and maybe that means we shouldn't play a game together.
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with you. It's about acknowledging the fact that we're not going to be able to play a game together.
Well, I think if we just show compassion either way, the person who is being the offender in this case isn't being compassionate about other people's feelings.
Exactly. Yeah, you're not trying to understand the other person's view.
And you should also be compassionate about them, but that doesn't mean you should allow them to do what they're doing, because it is harming somebody else.
I'm not trying to excuse somebody by saying, oh, well, if you don't get along, go off and have your own degenerate game. You should still probably address the fact that you're upsetting people. But
I have to say that in researching this topic a little bit, because I wanted to learn more about the term, it actually came in 2002 from a blog called Pervocracy, The Pervocracy.
Okay.
It was a little bit more about sexual roles and harassing in those environments, and it's been adapted in other ways. But when I'm doing research on something called Broken Stairs, I had a lot of home improvement sites I had to go through.
A lot of Bob Vila articles.
A lot of Bob Vila, a lot of...
I don't think any of our listeners are going to know who Bob Vila is. Anybody?
A few will.
Maybe some of the older folks. But
Tim Toolman Taylor. and so now what will happen is when I go back on Facebook, the ads are all going to be for like home improvement sites and nails and lumber.
Pre-built homes. Yeah. So next up, I wanted to touch on something that, it's been in the news for a little while. It's not super breaking, but just wanted to talk to you a little bit about it, get your opinion. So Nintendo made an announcement recently that upset a lot of people. Kind of upset me too. They have come out and announced that the Classic Edition, the NES Classic Edition, I think is the full name, the little miniature NES with 30-some games built into it, that they started selling last fall, I guess, right before the holidays last year. They're not going to make anymore.
Yeah,
They're not going to make anymore. What's out there is out there, and that is the end of that.
The statement to IGN that I saw was the last shipments that are coming out will come out in April.
Right now, yeah.
This month, and then that's it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
We don't... If you want to get it, go out and get it at your stores. And I'm not happy about this.
It's a little frustrating.
Because I have some opinions.
Yeah.
But what do you think? I'm not okay.
Okay. There's two perspectives to have here. There's the company's perspective.
Yes.
And the fan perspective.
Yes.
First of all, from the company's perspective, what a stupid move. This thing has been sold out since it was released. It is a chance for them to print free money because these games are done and paid for. They own the rights. They don't have to pay out royalties. They've paid the fees for it. All they're doing is paying for the hardware.
Right.
And I think, honestly, they could push the price. If it was $60 for one of these, they could push the price up to $80, $90, and people were still going to buy them. Keep selling them. How stupid an idea is it to not sell? It's just a chance to earn more money. Guaranteed. Why wouldn't you take that? Just ridiculous business decision.
So that's the company.
That's the business side of things. From the fan side of things, holy crap, this makes me angry.
Yeah.
Nintendo has been doing this for a while. They're
playing scarcity
since the Wii, and again, from business perspective, I sort of understand it. Nintendo's business model has always, well, for a long time, has been that they make money off their consoles. They make money on the hardware. Yeah. The other console manufacturers don't do that. Xbox is famously sold at a huge loss.
Huge.
Nintendo's always made money on their hardware. So I understand why they don't want to overproduce, because any overproduction on hardware is money right out of their pocket. That being said, they've known it's an issue since the Wii. It wasn't really for the Wii U. It's has absolutely been for the Switch, and it's been for this Classic Edition too.
Yeah.
And all it's done is drive the scalper market. And there is no form of life lower on earth than the Nintendo console scalper. People who buy up 30 of these things and resell them on eBay for 4 times the cost.
Well, because those guys should get busted because they usually have some sort of connection through a GameStop employee,
how do they get that
or
money?
Walmart employee, but they're not supposed to.
They're not busted because eBay doesn't enforce it, and Nintendo's not doing anything to address it. They never have. And, you can chalk it up to, with the Wii, it's like, well, they just didn't know. And then, to be fair, how could you tell that the Wii was going to blow up like it did? The NES Classic Edition, okay. I mean, it was pretty clear it was going to be big. But
it was created
I'll give them benefit of the doubt on the second time, too. Because the Wii U didn't blow up. So maybe they got gun shy, and they were like, oh, well, the Wii U didn't do well.
I don't think so, because the Wii U was proprietary technology.
Yeah.
And it was, and this is Nintendo with innovation in gaming. Mm. So when you have innovation, you have to push boundaries. There's a risk. Yeah. The NES Classic was There's no risk. Yeah. They already had every intellectual property.
Yeah, exactly. It's there. It's already all there. So, and they knew that it was going to do well.
They knew it was going to do well.
But now with the Switch, they've done the same thing with the Switch. I still can't get one.
This is something
because
that
I
Nintendo
refuse to pay
done.
More than MSRP for one.
And I believe they've outright said, we put out stuff so that you want it. And that this is the biggest way to see it is through all the, what are they called? The little Wii Me's, the little
Amiibos.
The Amiibos. They make those so rare so that you want them. There's buzz. It continues to keep value.
But they've done this. They've done that with them. They've addressed it with some of the Amiibos, though. Some of the ones that were really rare and scalpers were killing, they produced a bunch more, and it destroyed the scalper market.
Not by much, though.
But they've addressed it a little bit with that.
Still to find the green knit Yoshi amiibo or whatever, they're still really rare to find, and it's the scalper's market.
The fact with this that they would just straight up stop production is infuriating. Yeah, okay, if you're not going to increase it, if you want to keep the rarity there, sure. But stopping production completely is just going to drive prices up.
Did you read what their comment was? Mm. This is a slap to the face.
Yep.
We paid attention to customer feedback, and we appreciate your interest.
Yeah.
Blah. That's it. That's about all they say. They said, thank you, we listened to you. We appreciate that you care, but we're not going to do anything about it.
Yeah, we don't actually care that you care.
We don't want to get one in your hands.
Yeah. So the problem becomes where somebody like me, who I'm a Nintendo fan, I would happily buy one of those classic editions. I'll never own one now because they're too stupid to produce anymore, and the dirty, stinking scalpers. There are 50 of them in a warehouse down the road from here, I'm sure. Some scalpers got them in a storage unit.
Yeah.
He's never even played a Nintendo game. He's never plugged those in. He doesn't care. He just wants to make money. So instead of those 50 going to homes like you and I, who would appreciate those and love them forever, who would let our nieces and nephews play with them and be introduced to retro games,
on vacation.
Who would take them with, who would get ready. We're never going to use them because they're going to sit in a warehouse, and some rich hipster is going to pay $400 for it, plug it in once, laugh at, these games are old, and then never take it out of the box again.
Would you call a rich hipster like a ripster?
A ripster?
A richster?
No, when I was a kid, we would call a rich hipster a yuppie.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, yuppie.
Which I guess that's a term coming back. But
is it?
It's very frustrating. I don't know. What do you think?
Okay.
Sorry, it gets me angry. I'm going to stop.
No, and I'm frustrated about it too because I didn't get one. And there is no competition here with the Switch. No competition in the market.
Okay, wait. Yes, there is.
No.
And that's part of the problem.
Not yet.
They'll re-release all these games on the Switch, on the virtual...
There isn't a virtual yet.
They're going to.
When
and
they
that's
get
part
to
of the
that
speculation
point,
is why they're stopping, is to drive up prices for that.
If they had their virtual console market, or their virtual game market in place, if they knew that was going to hit in August, in December, whenever it's going to be there, because it's not there.
Yeah.
You have to go back and play your Wii U to get those games. Yeah. If you can't get it virtually, then why aren't you letting me buy it somewhere else? Yeah. Because I have no way to go out and for my Nintendo Switch buy Bomberman.
Right.
But I could play it on this Nintendo console. Mm-hmm. So they're taking away the opportunity for me to buy that game in any way through their current generation. You know, that is stupid.
That's actually, I was watching a video today, in fact, from a YouTuber I love called 8-Bit Guy. He does a bunch of tech reviews and old tech stuff. But he did a video on alternatives to the Classic Edition in response to this topic. He was saying, well, they're not making this anymore, so here's some other things you can buy. And he had a great point. And he said, normally I'm not going to condone ROMs, but if they're not going to make these available for sale anymore, morally, I think it's okay.
Well, that is the consideration. And
some people... I want to say I'm not encouraging anybody to do anything illegal, but...
No.
It's hard to justify.
Well, if you're not going to sell
me Bomberman on the NES in any shape or form...
I can't go buy a new version of it to stick in my Nintendo.
I'm making new cartridges, and some of there's a lot of carts that I want to collect for my NES collection that are $400, $500, $600. I'm never going to own even freaking Contra. I'm probably never going to own Contra cartridge, at least not until I get more money, because Contra is like $60 or $70.
Yeah, the original Super C.
The first one, just Contra.
Just Contra?
Plain old Contra.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, the part of that consideration, some people are speculating that Nintendo, because they hate having their stuff hacked.
They do.
That people are basically buying that,
hacking it and putting all the games,
putting the entire library in there.
Sure,
basically just sticking a Raspberry Pi in the back of it. And
which you can do right now.
At which point I say, that still doesn't matter, because one, I'm buying your console.
I'm still buying your hardware.
Two, I'm still paying the full price. I'm just sticking the,
You're not selling, bases loaded 92 anymore. So if I get the ROM for it, it's not taking money out of your pocket.
Right.
They're I'm paying you for the console.
If this was in any way, if the ROM market was taking money away from them, which in this circumstance it wouldn't be, because it's still, we're modding it, but we're keeping it, we're buying it. And we're, if you bought one and it was the coolest thing, we played it all night tonight, and then I went home tomorrow and I asked my wife, because she has the pocketbook, and I say, I really want to get an NES Classic.
Yeah.
And then we go buy one, and then I mod it too. They just made money either way.
Another console.
So another console. I get the games that I want. Another question is, sorry.
Oh, I will say too, addendum to that, from a legal standpoint, if I'm going to go out and want to play one of these games, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to buy a copy of the cartridge.
Yes.
Nintendo's not making any money for me. I'm buying a $10 cartridge at the flea market. That guy's getting $10. Good for him. Nintendo's not making any money. Whereas, hey, I might give him $60 and then I'm not going to, Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Nintendo isn't making money where they could.
Just a stupid.
And maybe they don't care to make money, and that's fine. But if they care about the consumer base,
what business doesn't want to make money?
Give us a chance to get the games we want, and they don't want to do that either.
Yeah.
So another consideration is: are they preparing for the next version? Are they going to make the Super NES going to have this Classic, and more?
Which makes, I'm sure they would, but
or is this one that will go online and you can, through some sort of virtual market, download games? Because they used to do with the original Super Famicom.
Yeah.
Is you could have rewritable games.
Yeah.
And you would go to the game store.
Yeah.
And basically pay $5. It erases your game, puts a new game on it, and you take that game home. Yeah. They could do something very similar with the internet today.
I'm shocked that they didn't do that with the Classic Edition. I assumed when they announced it that they were going to make that and give it connectivity and allow you to buy new games to load onto it. Because why wouldn't they?
Well,
why wouldn't they?
We still don't know.
That's the question we're
Part of this
asking.
could have something to do with the virtual console. Because the Nintendo Switch is basically built for portable gaming.
Sure.
It's not built for home theater gaming.
They want me to buy Super Mario Brothers for the 8th time now because I bought it for Wii and Wii U, you know.
I bought it for the Wii. I have 2 physical copies of the NES version. I don't want to go buy it again, but if I bought the NES Classic, I would have it. Yeah. And they would have $60 of my money that I'm not going to be spending on a Switch anytime soon. And then, I bought the Switch for $300 and drop another $8 to $10 on this game again.
Yeah, I mean, it really sours me on getting a Switch, which I still want to do just because I like it, like the idea of the console. I want to play those games.
And there's your scarcity again.
I'd love to get one, but I haven't been able to.
Where are they?
Great question. You send 3 to each GameStop in the country. What am I supposed to do?
You should have pre-ordered it then, for goodness sake.
I don't pre-order. I'm against pre-ordering too. We talked about this last week, I think, about GameStop.
The only thing I've
their
pre-ordered...
business model that makes me angry.
The only thing I pre-ordered was Skylanders.
Yeah.
And it was worth it for the 2 times I did it, because we got the special Dark Edition that had these
extra You got the extra guys with it, right?
Got a couple extra guys with it included, and I knew it was waiting on me when I got there. That was kind of cool, that, yes, here's my name. Give me the special Dark Edition Skylanders. Mom, we didn't get ours. Too bad, kid. Should have pre-ordered.
I
Walk
had
out
8
like a
copies.
boss.
Check my eBay store.
And then, 8 weeks later, I see that it's half price. The same version, because they prepared for their pre-orders. So yeah, I've learned not to pre-order anymore either, because if I'm patient, I can get the same stuff for cheaper.
Yep.
Because GameStop
6 weeks later
cannot keep up with their pre-orders.
Yeah. So I am just all about the old news, apparently, in this episode. Another bit of old news that I thought I'd bring up, because it sort of, kind of, maybe theoretically at least affects us. YouTube changed their ad revenue policy, I should say. I think this is partially in response to ad providers speaking out about, we talked about previous episode, PewDiePie and the controversy there, and basically controversial YouTubers and ad producers are upset. They're saying we need to be able to pick who are, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
So what YouTube has come out and said is, well, we're going to set a floor for monetization, and you're not allowed to have ads on your channel. You're not allowed to monetize your channel until you have 10,000 viewers.
I think it's overall 10,000 views.
I should say, views.
Yeah.
But basically, you need to establish yourself to where people want to watch you before we're going to put ads on. That way, I can't go on and upload a video from my shack in the woods about my gun collection and all my insane political ramblings, have 2 views, and somehow have an ad for, Head and Shoulders on there or something like that. So, but what I wanted to talk about is, how does it affect guys like me and you? We're new to putting stuff out. We are trying to develop a following. We've got our podcast here. We've got Twitch, which we've gotten some followers there. We've got our YouTube channels. We're trying to grow. We're trying to be content creators because, we it's a hobby for us. We want to make stuff and reach out to people. We want to connect with people that like our kind of, the same stuff we do. But at the same time, you look at it and you say, well, pipe dream that somewhere down the line you're able to monetize what we do. Is this creating a barrier that's going to prevent, little guys, the little creators, from growing? Because, you reach that boundary, I think, where you can start monetizing, and all of a sudden, I'm not having to do this. I'm not having to do this around my 2 jobs in school, where I've got an hour a week to work on this. Now all of a sudden, hey, I'm making a little money. I can maybe drop that other part-time job. Yeah. And now I've got 8 hours a week to work on this, and I can produce more, and now all of a sudden I grow. Do you think this is going to prevent that from happening for little guys like us? I don't, because I see this as a different kind of hurdle. Yeah. That a person in this sector has to deal with anyways. I just checked how many views that I had on my dice collection video.
CBG episode 0. That was just me testing out the new channel.
Yeah, just testing the camera.
It's simply my dice collection.
It's a good video. I like your dice.
It's longer than I'd like it to be. I think I'm going to redo it at some point. Set them up kind of nicely in sets and talk more about where I got this one.
Sweeping camera views.
Yeah, really good views with my high def webcam.
Sure.
1,300 views. I am a tenth of the way in one video.
That's true.
Now, granted, I'd have to see what the math really means if it comes to, is it unique viewers? Is it maybe over a certain amount of time?
Honestly, I'm not 100% sure on the, specifically the policy, too.
But if you're the worst show on network television, you're going to get canceled.
Right.
You're not going to make money.
Yeah.
So I think for a small-time YouTuber, there were people who got in at the right time, had a small number of views, got into some... Let me use the word again, conglomerate. They got into some bigger organization that got them monetization. Yeah. And they weren't getting a ton of views, but somehow it was reciprocal. And because they have monetization, because they're part of this group, their views grew and grew and grew and grew. And then they finally made it into those 5,000, 500,000.
Yeah, the big boys.
5 million became a bigger boy, at least. For you or me, monetization was never the thing.
No, it's not a goal.
And it doesn't need to begin until we have a following, because there's no ad revenue for 20 people who watch my video.
Right.
What would I get?
That's
10
true.
cents?
You know, actually, I was listening to the Completely Unnecessary podcast, CU podcast, which is Pat the NES Punk.
Yeah.
And they were talking about this because Pat has a decent following on YouTube. He's not one of the biggest guys, but he it's his job. He makes enough money.
He's big.
That's what he lives by.
I think he's big.
And he was saying that 10,000 views, if you monetize that, comes out to 50 cents. It's not. It's inconsequential in terms of revenue to the owner of the channel.
Truthfully, what you and I have seen, even just now, it's beyond the prototype stage, but crowdfunding, like a Patreon, not Kickstarter, but the crowdfunding types of ways to balance your ad revenue. That's how people in this sector are really supporting themselves. Right. They say, I'm going to get 5 views or 5,000 views this video. Who knows? I'm not worrying about it going big, but for the community. That's where you're going to make the steady dollars that will persist. And that relationship you have is a medium that hasn't been able to be expressed on television. Yeah, we've got a Budweiser commercial, and Budweiser paid how many millions of dollars for this Super Bowl ad, as opposed to I am getting $1 per video from 50 people, and I do 3 videos a month. That adds up, and that can help augment and support a channel or a YouTuber better and more consistently than worrying about ad revenue. Because the thing is, YouTube, it's theirs. They can do whatever they want. True. And they've tried to balance, okay, it's got to be longer, it's got to be shorter.
Yeah, they play with time links. And
so people on YouTube are having longer videos because it's not how many people watch your video.
I think they're going back to shorter again. I think they changed the algorithm.
Yeah, it was something about it had to do with total time watched. Yeah. So if you do an hour-long video and they watch 30 minutes of it, it's better than watching 3 minutes of a 3-minute video.
I will say, though, that as an aside there, my favorite content creators on YouTube have never bothered about that. Yeah. If they're going to make an episode that's an hour long, it's an hour-long video. And they're like, it is what it is, whereas you can tell the folks who are in it for the money, all of a sudden they're uploading 10-minute, 5-second videos.
Yeah. It's like,
okay, you can tell you're trying to maximize revenue, and that's clear. I'm not going to begrudge people to do that.
There's also just sort of the current I think attention span.
Yeah. Well, that's also,
if your video's more than 12 minutes. I don't know if I'm going to watch all of it. I've got something to do.
Well, no, my favorite stuff on YouTube are 30, 45, an hour and a half long. Yeah. Red Letter Media, one of my favorite channels, all their videos are an hour long, and I'm going to sit there and watch every second of it.
The D&D group I watch, their videos are 3 to 4 hours long.
Yeah, if you're going to watch somebody play D&D, you can't cut it down to 10 minutes. So. But overall, I absolutely agree with you. I pose this question as, do you think it's going to provide a barrier? I don't think it's going to at all. No. I'm on board with you. If you're going to make it, quote unquote, and you're going to get followers on something like YouTube, it's going to be, it's all or nothing with YouTube. It's either you've got nobody or you've got 20, 30, 40,000 people watching. That's just the way it is. That's the way that the internet works and how virality works. If I can, sure, that's a word.
It is now virality.
But yeah, I don't think 10,000 is a crazy barrier. My other question about that, though, is my other posing question that not stating an opinion, but do you think that this will prevent what YouTube is afraid of? Do you think this is going to provide a cushion for advertisers? Do you think this is going to protect advertisers from bad content, from their stuff getting on bad content?
Sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, this is advertisers creating things for YouTube to have to abide by, because otherwise they go, okay, I'm Budweiser. We don't need to put we want you to have interesting, cool, creative, have your creators put out quality stuff.
Yeah.
But if it's something that's subpar or offensive, then no, we don't want our product attached to that.
Well, see,
why are you watching something for like Disney parks and then it's an offensive video?
I disagree. I don't think it's going to help at all. I think it's really dumb if that's what they're trying to do here. Because the controversies, the problems have come from guys with 10 million viewers. It's not, I don't care what a guy with 500 viewers is saying. Nobody cares.
That's where the controversy comes from, but that doesn't mean you still want your products attached to offensive material.
It's true, but again, if there's an offensive material and your product's attached to it, which, whatever, and 30 people see that video, who cares? That's like saying that,
Well, you get both.
That's like
They're doing both.
That's like me going downtown and shouting hateful things and waving a banner for Coca-Cola around. Nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to be like, oh, Coca-Cola's sponsoring that guy to say those things.
No.
But if I have a national television show and I say bad, if I'm a big YouTube content creator and I say terrible things.
But if Coca-Cola, if a Coca-Cola executive's driving by, he's going to say, hey, stop that. Or I'm going to call again and tell you to stop that.
That's true, but I don't think he's going to. But my point is Coca-Cola's not driving around looking for people doing that.
But if they notice that you were putting them on a lower level because you're doing something inappropriate, but they're just doing that as well as for the bigger people. And so part of that is they're setting that hurdle that once you become the bigger person, that's when their ad hits. If you're a person putting out one video every few months and you're getting 3 views, like a lot of ours have been.
Like we've been,
Does my video deserve to have ad revenue? Well, there's no point to it. If anything, you're taking longer to get to my subpar content. My math is pretty close, but I think that all of my video views added together are less than half of my episode 0 view. Yeah. And if at some point
you've got a lot more views than I do, and I'm jealous.
Just because episode 0.
Well, but even your other videos,
your average is probably higher than mine.
No, I don't think so. A lot of my lightsaber building videos, I got nobody watched them. I watched them. Kind of bummer.
I watched them.
I don't know.
You don't have 0. You have at least.
I think overall, I think it's an interesting topic. I think it's just, and this is something I've talked about in previous episodes when we talked about YouTube stuff. Yeah. I think it's just a sign of how the medium is maturing. It's becoming. I really like. I'm a historian at heart. I like to compare it historically to the development of television as a medium, and how in the early days it was the Wild West, and it grew and it grew. I think we're seeing that with YouTube and online content production. It's growing. It's mature. It's starting to mature. It's becoming something different. I think that's
and it is becoming something that some people find untenable, and they have to move on to different places, or they found more creative ways to subsist.
That's a good point. You're weeding out the people who can't make it under more structured conditions, and those who can,
even the gentleman who does the Improved Initiative, Neil Litherland, he has a couple of ads that pop up, and then I just click them away. Sure. I don't have an ad blocker; they just pop up. I click them away, and if he gets a fraction of a penny,
you get something for it.
I don't mind. Yeah. It's not big, bright things where it messes up my screen and I can't load it, or I have to load it 4 times.
Although,
so the ads keep
I
popping.
will say, if you really like whoever you're looking at, I think if you click on the ad, it might be better for them. Because then they get click-throughs. Depends on you, but just FYI, but yeah.
And I'd do that for somebody in a heartbeat if it meant more money for them. Yeah. But, even he has to do that because it does supplement in the tiniest way. If he had a stronger Patreon, he could just eliminate all those ads. Yeah. And that's kind of where we're going to. So I've never seen these things as big hurdles. Yeah. It's a bigger problem for the bigger people. Yeah. And since we're not the bigger people, I can't speak from experience.
True enough.
All right. I think that's going to wrap it up for episode 18 of the FoundryCast. Yeah. Thank you for listening, and if this is your first time joining the podcast, want to say thank you for sticking around with us. We do something a little different for every podcast. If you've been with us for a while, you might already know that for 2017, every month we're doing a different theme. Yep. April is Board Game Month. Yes. We've been having an absolute blast with that so
I just
far.
bought a new game today.
And I've got one that I'm going to try to eBay here over the next week. All right. Coming up a little bit later this month is International Board Game Day, Saturday, April 29th. So we're hoping to do something really special for that, for both the podcast and the website. So stay tuned for more on that.
Yep. And don't forget, also, we announced it last episode, but I'll mention again here, we're going to be at Raleigh SuperCon in Raleigh, North Carolina. July, I think it's 14th is when that starts. So here in about 2 months, it's going to be your very first con you've ever been to.
First ever, man. I'm really excited.
I'm a regular goer to Dragon Con, but it'll be my first time at this con since it's a brand new con, of course. So we're going to be doing some content leading up to that, kind of getting ready for the convention, and also we're going to do a bunch of stuff from it. Really excited for that here coming up in a couple of months. But you can catch all that content and lots more on our website, TheFoundryCast.com. And then you can also find us on Twitter, Instagram, etc., with the same name, TheFoundryCast. I think on Twitter it's _FoundryCast, actually. Mm-hmm. And we also have some personal Twitters and our YouTube as well. I am 9to5 Gamer.
And I am Crafty Bastard Gamer, although in some instances, just to be a little more family friendly, it's Crafty B Gamer. And all that information's on the website as well.
Yeah, you can find us on there. We post all kinds of random personal stuff too. And yeah, anything else before we finish up tonight?
No, that's going to be it again. Thank you for listening, and until next time, I am the Blue Meeple.
And I am Slammer Thundershank.
And we'll see you next time on the FoundryCast.
Good night, everybody. I should try the coffee.
The coffee's probably going to be a better option.
Yeah. Might help with the soul crushing.
It wouldn't hurt.